Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our bigger show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week to local comic book stores, or if you shop with us at infinityflux.net, they will be coming on the aeroplane or the truck or however they get there to you very soon. But make sure to follow along on the website because supplies are limited as always. So clickety clack your little fingies and order the books today. But wait, there's more. No,
What?
let's get into this week's worth of books because there is some big number ones this week. You can see two of them right here at the top of the show. So let's get into it.
Yeah, we are going to start with Wolverine Revenge #1. I have been waiting for this for so long, and it's totally worth the wait. It is so good. Written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Greg Capullo. We should just move on. That's all you need to know about it right there. Now, first things first. This is in its own continuity. This is not connected to anything else whatsoever. It kind of reminds me of something like Dark Ages or Deceased in that big things happen in this that make it very, very clear, oh, this is a completely different. I don't want to say it's a different universe because then you start thinking multiverses. Just forget about that. It's just its own continuity, not related to anything.
Yeah.
And it's going to be I think it's a 5-issue miniseries, something like that. So the first page has just some text on it that explains that there's something, and I don't want to tell you what it is. I don't want to spoil it, but something has happened that has changed the world for the worse. And original Nick Fury hunts down Wolverine in the Savage Land to get his help stealing something. And again, I'm trying not to spoil it, but they want to steal something that belongs to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants that will help fix the world. And Wolverine agrees. So
and of course, there's a ticking clock too.
Yeah.
We got to do it within the next however long.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wolverine agrees to do this, and he and two other well-known Marvel heroes, and again, not trying to spoil it, but they take the three of them take a team of Shield agents down to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants headquarters to steal this thing that they're going to be stealing. But they run into Sabretooth and Deadpool and Omega Red. And Deadpool in this is interesting because, like you said the other day, it almost seems like original Deadpool. Like he's still kind of smart aleck, but he's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's more that assassin.
Yeah.
From like his early appearances.
Yeah. He's definitely not goofy noble Deadpool. Like he does some bad things in this. And I don't want to say anything else because I definitely don't want to spoil anything because there are a couple of moments in this that I absolutely did not see coming. A couple of very shocking moments in this. And by the time you get to the end of the book, you will understand why it's called Wolverine Revenge. It makes perfect sense once you get there. But this is awesome. I love it. This is the Wolverine book that I've wanted for a really long time. Yeah. I think this is absolutely fantastic. Now, we have this version, and there's also a red band version, just like there was with Blood Hunt. So this is $1 more, and this is going to give you 2 extra pages that are not in this. Nothing that changes the story. You still get all the dialogue. It's just the dialogue is moved around to a couple extra pages on this. Yeah. And there are a handful of extra panels in this that are bloodier, more gory, that kind of thing, that are not in this. However, we were just talking about it right before we started. There's a few panels in this that I don't think are any less extreme than this too. So
it almost feels like they swapped out one panel for another of equal levels.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of them. There's one or two that you're like, oh yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
A few kind of redrawn panels, and a few that are kind of the same scene but elaborated a little bit more on. You see a little bit more of what's going on in some of them.
Yeah, so, you can decide if you want to pay the extra $1 for the red band. Like I said, the story stays the same. There's no story changes whatsoever. This one just gives you a couple extra pretty pages to look at and just a little bit extra blood, because there's plenty of blood in this one still. Yeah. But, so we have that red band version right there, and we've also got some other really cool variants. This is the Villalobos variant. We've got the Deadpool Wolverine movie variant. We have a really nice Mark Brooks variant with Wolverine on a dinosaur. That's always awesome. There's this really cool Okazaki variant right there. This really nice David Nakayama foil variant. That looks really good. And then we have this 1 in 25 Zhang variant. that we're selling for $14.99. We also have this 1 in 25 U variant. This is a variant of the red band version. We're selling this one for $89.99.
It's kind of one of those homages to EC Comics.
Oh yeah, yeah, it looks good. And then we have the 1 in 50 Villalobos Virgin variant that we're selling for $29.99.
If you need a reason to get the red band one, um, that you get 2 more pages of Greg Capullo art
Right.
should be selling point enough.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of splash pages.
Right.
And just more of his art is always a good thing.
Yep.
Especially, I want to say my favorite visually was maybe the Savage Lands part with the dinosaurs and all of that. It just was like, yeah, this is everything I wanted from a Wolverine book.
Yeah.
Just in that first opening scene.
Yeah. So definitely, it gets our highest recommendation. This book is absolutely fantastic.
Next up, we've got Predator versus Black Panther #1. This is by Benjamin Percy, and the art is by Chris Allen and Sean Damian Hill. And you'll see when you read it, it kind of, like how the Wolverine one, it splits into different, it changes artists when it changes kind of scenes or time frames. It's kind of how it works in here. Like I said, though, this is following up on the heels of Predator versus Wolverine, and appears to be within the same universe. I think they've said this is kind of the, these Predators know about the Predator that came and fought Wolverine and all of that. But this one's cool. This one, I feel like maybe the story is a little bit more solid. It has a little bit more of a through line. The other one was kind of Wolverine throughout time fighting the Predator. This one actually gives a story to some of the Predators. And we see that right in the beginning where there's 2 brother Predators. One, I do like they don't talk in this. It's just done through narration. I never want to hear the Predators talk.
Right.
That's
it's also like mimicking, a voice or something.
Yeah, like at the end of Predator.
Yeah.
But clearly one brother is better than the other. He is taller, stronger. The other one is smaller and is missing one of his legs, so it's been replaced with a prosthetic leg. And clearly the father favors the bigger, stronger one because it's the Predator, community.
Yeah.
They're all for strength and ability and all of that. But they're kind of vying for hunting grounds. And they are going to try to prove who deserves Earth as a hunting ground because they know how big it is. The other big thing is they do know about vibranium.
Right.
And that's kind of a key part in this is because their father has an item made of vibranium that got from a previous encounter. And the younger one thinks if I can get that, I can be better and stronger. So
he starts planning like a whole suit of armor made of vibranium.
He starts daydreaming like, oh man, I could have some really cool stuff.
I could have a cool helmet and then some chest armor. Kind of like if you're playing World of Warcraft. You're like, oh, if I can get this chest piece, that'll increase my damage by 10 or whatever.
Yeah. Eventually he'll learn that they put out a new expansion and all of that is old now.
Right.
But on the other side, we've got Black Panther, who is, this is, I'm trying to figure out, this is kind of before Wakanda has become known to the world.
Right.
Because Shuri comes to Black Panther, like in a lot of stories, it basically says the world outside is suffering. They could really use with our technology, and Black Panther is very hesitant to open the borders of Wakanda. But there's some interesting stuff that goes on that maybe there's some kind of prophecies and stuff about clearly like the Predator coming and all of that. And you'll have to read to find out how Predator turns Wakanda into a hunting ground. But some really interesting stuff goes on here, and clearly this Predator has targeted Wakanda and especially Black Panther as the ultimate prize, seeing his suit of armor and all of that. So there's a lot going on in this issue, just kind of building the story up. There's not any huge like action one-on-one type fighting, but the stakes are set, the rules are set, all of that, and it looks like we're going to have a really fun miniseries going forward. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, especially I liked the art during the opening scene with the Predator and all of that. The designs for the Predator in this are really cool. They're very distinct and different, so you can follow which one's which. That is our A cover. And of course, just like all of these, we've got some great variants. So we have this Galman variant. We've got this Ken Lashley variant, who worked on the previous one with Wolverine. He is sorely missed in this, but there is some good art. We've got this Lionel Francis Yu variant. We've got this Philip Tan variant. We've got, of course, a Scotty Young variant.
I love that one.
We've got a 1 in 10 Allen design variant where you see, I believe is this the younger? This is the younger brother Predator. And we have a 1 in 25 Woods variant we're selling for $19.99.
Well, next up, we've got another big one. This is Ultimate Spider-Man number 8, and this continues to be an awesome series. Jonathan Hickman, again, Wolverine Revenge and now Ultimate Spider-Man. He's having a great week.
Yeah.
Marco Cicchetto on art on this one. Now, I will say that this issue is another slower-paced issue, like a lot of them have been so far, but it's still very good and still, I think, an important issue. Because I think big things are going to come from this.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the issue, we learn a little bit more about Spider-Man's suit. And we learn a little bit more about his importance in this new Ultimate Universe. I thought that was a really interesting part of it. And I do have a theory about his suit that I don't want to talk about without spoiling anything.
Independently, I texted you about it and was like, do you think this? And you're like, that's exactly what I was thinking. So I don't know if it's subtle or we've just read enough where it kind of sticks out.
Or maybe we should have picked it up on it earlier than this.
Maybe
we missed it, but
it's really interesting, and it's the first kind of like, oh, maybe this is going to be a future story thing I've seen.
Yeah, so it's going to be really fun to talk about when the book comes out. But a good portion of this issue is a series of great family moments. We get Peter and MJ and Ben and Jonah celebrating the kid's birthday. It's not on the same day, but they do have their birthdays in the same month, so they celebrate them together, and they go out, have a big party, and it's wonderful. Mary Jane in this is so great. Peter talks to Ben and Jonah a little bit more about their paper, because it's about to launch. And the other major part of this is Wilson Fisk pulling together the 5 heads of the other boroughs of New York, and that's where we get our first appearance of this universe's version of Mr. Negative, Mysterio, Kraven, Mole Man, and Walter Hardy, the Black Cat. And we also see, while they're introducing all these characters, we also see a photograph of Walter Hardy and his wife and their daughter, Felicia. So I don't know if that really counts as maybe like the first cameo appearance of Felicia Hardy in this new universe. I don't really know, but we do see a bunch of characters in this that we've never seen in this universe before, and them together with Wilson Fisk, we know they will become this universe's version of the Sinister Six.
And they're great intros too.
Yeah.
They each get kind of their own one-page like little snippets of things that they've done or whatever, and the idea that like Wilson Fisk runs his business pretty like ruthlessly, and they do say the other ones kind of lay back and let things just happen, and they get involved when they need to. But it's really cool to see how each of their leadership styles are different, and you'll have to read to find out. But especially Mole Man, I love that part. Was really great.
Yeah, he's really great. So it's really cool, and I like the designs for all the characters. Like it's gonna be really, really cool. And it's weird because I know that I said this is slow, but it's still awesome. And I've said before that Ultimate Black Panther seems a little bit slow, and I wish that would pick up the pace. So it seems hypocritical. But I feel like this one, even though it's still kind of slow, I still feel like it's doing a great job still building this world that we're in. It's really developing all these characters. Plus, I just like these characters, and I could read a whole book of just Peter and Mary Jane and the kids like having a day out or whatever, just because it's so well done. So yeah, just this series has been fantastic. Probably my favorite series from Marvel right now, and this issue is also great.
I'd say this one is pretty high up in my favorite issues.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's not action packed, but it's just rich.
Yeah,
it's storytelling,
there's a lot there.
And you never stay on one scene too long before you're switching to something else. You're like, oh, now this story's interesting. Oh, now this story's interesting. So I feel like this is such a well-rounded book.
Yeah.
In a way that I feel like is a very Jonathan Hickman, who can make even the mundane really fascinating.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Another great issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. So this is our A cover right here. We have this cover by Luciano Vecchio, and there's your Sinister Six, or what will become, I'm sure, this universe's version of the
They
Sinister
haven't got their
Six.
membership cards
That's
yet.
right. Yeah, they haven't like put the name out there yet or anything like that. And then there is this awesome Lee Garbett variant that I really like as well.
That Kingpin in the background looks like the Into the Spider
Spider-Verse,
Verse
yeah.
Kingpin, where he's just huge.
He's a big old boy.
Well, next up, I have one that this is going to be interesting to talk about. This is Jenny Sparks #1 from DC. This is a Black Label book from Tom King, and the art is by Ryan Sook, who did this cover. And that's what the interior of the book looks like. It is beautiful. It feels like a Black Label book. Now, you may be familiar with Jenny Sparks, maybe not. She is a character that comes from the Authority with like Apollo and Midnighter, who and those characters are mentioned in here, but this is a book just about her, and I have read stuff with her in it, even to like Stormwatch and all that kind of thing. But understanding her powers is a bit difficult because she is the spirit of the 20th century, and that goes back to more of like the Authority days and all of that, where she was born at the beginning of the century, and she eventually dies at the end of the century.
Oh, okay.
And so she is long lived and kind of immortal because of that, because she does embody this. Even back in that time, it said like, during the Great Depression in America, she got really depressed, like became really. She kind of follows the feeling of the people and all of that. So she's a really interesting character. But on top of that, she has lightning powers and can turn her whole body into lightning, stuff like that. But all that being said, it's so you going into this, if you're not super familiar with her, she's gonna seem like, oh my gosh, is this like the most powerful character in the DC universe? Because something has happened. Captain Atom, who is one of literally in any continuity, one of the most powerful characters ever. He has the power of like atomic level, huge.
He's a walking nuclear reactor, basically.
In this one, he is a little unstable mentally, and he has escaped from what I guess the Justice League had him confined in, some kind of space to keep everyone safe.
Well, did they have him confined, or were they just trying to keep tabs on him?
I'm not sure, but it does say that uh, uh, he's gone off the radar, basically.
Yeah.
And that the Justice League goes to Jenny Sparks to try and get him back. And I feel like they don't fully explain in here why she is the person to do this. You just know, like, she basically says, y'all stay to your cities and take care of your little colorful bad guys.
I got this.
I got this type thing, which is crazy to think about. Maybe we'll learn a little bit going forward why she's the one to take care of this. But she definitely has that. She gives me a big feeling of like Constantine. Like she has that like devil may care, that a little bit of nihilist feeling, but with morals underneath it all. But we're also in this following a couple of kind of average people. There's a counselor, a judge, kind of a sleazy talent rep type person, and we're following them throughout kind of every other page. We see them throughout their day.
Yeah, just little snippets.
Yeah, maybe a panel devoted to each of these, and you can't really tell at the beginning what does this have to do with all of it, but by the time you get to the end of the issue, you have a better idea why they're talking about these characters. And I won't give it away because we don't even really know the full story of that. But this is definitely a Black Label book, and in the aspect of it's definitely not in any main continuity.
Yeah.
And it feels a little bit more mature storytelling. I almost think of it like, oh, this could be like an HBO show where it's like, this is not super action forward or anything like that. It just is a little bit more, less comic-y, more, you got to think about it. It's more dialogue based, that kind of stuff. But I did really like this first issue, but I definitely need to read further issues to fully understand what the story is going to be. Because right now, it just seems like it's Jenny Sparks going after Captain Atom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's still lots of questions.
there is a confrontation between them that goes a pretty surprising way, but even that doesn't resolve this issue. And for this to be a miniseries, I'm very interested to see what the. I'm sure there's a bigger picture going on here. So, very interesting first issue of this new Black Label series. And if you know Tom King, this is very much in the spirit of Human Target, Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures.
Yeah.
It's that kind of level of storytelling. So that is your A cover by interior artist Ryan Sook. And we got a bunch of cool variants for this as well. So we have this Gilliam March variant. We have this Omer variant. And we have this 1 in 25 Sawi variant for $19.99. Sawi, y'all had to see that.
Yeah, I was really confused reading this because I know nothing about Jenny Sparks. I've never read The Authority, but I do have that Volume 1 trade. So after I read that, I picked that trade up off my shelf. I was like, I really want to read this now. So it made me want to go back and learn because it was so interesting, even though I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a book where you do have to chew on it a little bit. It's not just handed to you. You might even have to go do some research about the character. Even on the A cover, it does show the Authority up in the corner.
Oh, okay.
You do see Apollo and Midnighter and maybe Engineer and some of those up there. So maybe they'll come into play at some point. I'm not sure, but definitely it's a book that like it's gonna flourish as it goes on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, next we've got a new book from Image called Standstill. This is the first of what's going to be an 8-issue series written by Lee Lowridge and the artist by Andrew Robinson. And one thing I'll say real quick: this is an oversized first issue. Like this is pretty thick, and it's a standard size comic. But I'll show you the inside because it's kind of interesting. Every page is a double page spread, and I'll just pick one. You know, this is near the beginning, so there's no spoilers. Every page is a double page spread, but it's printed like this, where you got these big margins on the top and bottom. So it's almost like the interior is printed for a different format, but you know it still worked. The book is just a normal size book, but I just thought I'd point that out because I thought it was pretty. It looks quite a bit different than most other books on the stands right now, and the artwork is great too. But we spend most of the issue with this guy on the cover. His name is Riker Rule, and he has a device on his wrist, and you can see it right there, that allows him to stop time. And the tagline of this book is, if you could stop time, what wouldn't you do? And he even asks a waitress out in this too. And what's really cool about this is that most of the time that we see him use that power, it's from the perspective of everybody around him. So he'll be in one panel, but then in the next panel he's gone, but nothing else has changed around because it's instant. And everybody's like, where did he go? What happened? Why? Oh, there's something on the table that wasn't there a second ago. What's going on? You know? And so it's really cool. You know, normally like in a time travel thing, you see it from the, like if it's the Flash traveling through time, you see it from his perspective and everything's winding back or whatever. This, it's like, no, we're seeing him just vanish because he's stopping time, almost like we're getting caught in it too. So now that we don't know how he got this device yet. That's part of the story that we'll have to read. But now that he has it, he appears to be some kind of mercenary or killer for hire. At the beginning of the book, he takes out a bar full of bikers and then he gets on the phone and just says, you know, the job's done or something like that. So we know that somebody else knows that he has this thing and they are paying him to do a lot of stuff. And we see throughout the story, we see the creator of this device. His name is Colin Shaw. He worked for the government until recently he got fired. Like I said, he created the device and he's following all these news headlines of these weird crimes. Like, you know, money will just, you know, go missing from a bank, or, you know, bodies will be found dead or something. And nobody knows how it's being done, but he knows because he knows about this device. And he's not this big super spy guy. He's more like a scientist, but because he's the only one who knows what's going on, he's going to have to be the one to do something about it. So it's really cool. Let's see what else. And I still don't really know what the overall story of this is. This is really just, like I said, we don't even see, most of the issue is we're following him around. The inventor, Colin Shaw, we only see him on a couple, 2, 3 pages. So I don't really know where the overall story is going. This is just introducing us to this concept and this character and what he does with this power that he has. Um, but I'm assuming at least part of it's going to be Colin trying to get this device back from Riker here. But I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be a really fun story. I really want to see how does he do this because it seems impossible. Like dude just stops. I don't even know if he has to touch it. It just sort of seems to glow, and then next thing you know, he's gone. Right. So it's really good though. The artwork, like I said, is really cool. It's really interesting, and yeah, I think it's definitely worth a read for sure. This is our A cover, and this is the only cover I think we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Next up for me, I've got a new book from Vault. This one's really interesting. This is called Something Crawled Out, and this is by Sun M, and art is by Mad Cursed, which I'm not sure if that's their given name, but it's a fitting for this
Yep.
book. Um, and this book has a lot of elements going on. Like a lot of number ones, this is a lot of setup and a lot of pieces of bigger stories. So in this, we meet Eddie and Rayner. We even see a flashback at the beginning of Eddie. She's sitting on like the roof of their house with Rayner, and Rayner, her dad calls and says, "Hey, time to come in. It's dinner time." And uh, Eddie says something like, "Do you dare me to jump off the roof?" And he's like, "Yeah, I dare you." But when he says that, it's like in a different font color.
Mm.
And she does, and you know, not great things happen. But it seems like they're friends growing up, and Eddie seems like she's normal, has job, all of that. Rayner is uh is her friend. She knows everything about him, all of that. But the town and people don't really like him. They think he's weird. He does kind of have a certain kind of almost vampiric look to him. He's
Mm.
dark hair and his really pale skin, all of that. Um, but the weird thing is throughout the issue, maybe once, I think maybe twice, she says something about Rayner's great, but he is the devil, and then she'll say whether he knows it or not, or you never know. Like, does she mean literally? Because it does seem like from the beginning that he had some weird something, but the story continues where some people have gone missing around town. Some even it doesn't they haven't got to the panic level yet, but Rayner's sister also hasn't been seen, but she was supposed to be at a friend's house, so they're kind of like she's probably still there, everything's fine. But we do hear that people have gone missing throughout the town, and Rayner and Eddie's. It seems like this is going to be the bigger story, what I can guess, of the kind of the missing people and all of that. But there's another interesting thing that happens where one night they're in a gas station, which I think Eddie works at, and Eddie gets scared because there's somebody outside of the window when they're supposed to be closed that has glowing eyes.
Okay, right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy. And some maybe borderline supernatural things happen. We'll have to read to find out. But it's I remember the solicitation talking about the missing people and Eddie and her friend, but her friend might also be the devil. And so there's a lot of weird things. There's the missing people. There's he might be the devil. There's this guy with the glowing eyes, and there's another thing that happens at the very end that's like, whoa, that's a lot going on.
Mm.
So we'll have to keep reading to find out kind of how all this funnels into one story. But I did really like the art. It reminded me of like American Adolfo. It's a little bit anime, a little bit classic American art, a little indie feeling. So that's really cool. And I thought the story actually is complicated as it could seem. Flowed really well. You were kind of just discovering all these elements as the characters were. But I really liked it, and I believe it's an oversized first issue. It definitely feels thicker. So that is Something Crawled Out. And then we also have a variant for this one. This is Eddie on the cover. This is the Quan cover.
All right, well, next we've got Phoenix #2. And this was awesome, just like the first one was, written by Stephanie Phillips, and the artist by Alessandro Miracolo. And yeah, it's really cool. In this one, Phoenix is busy saving the galaxy one telepathic call at a time when she comes across a damaged ship containing none other than her father-in-law, Corsair. And he tells her, she rescues him, and it's cool. There's a nice moment where she talks to Scott telepathically again. We liked that moment in the
Yeah.
first issue, and she does it again
And
here. And
Scott's basically like facepalm, like, oh
yeah, he's like,
no.
don't trust him. He's a pirate. He'll lie to you, that kind of thing. Well, Corsair tells Jean that he's trying to do good, right? That nobody trusts him, but he's trying to do good. And that he was recently on this big gambling planet called Game World. And he started hearing about people going missing from there. And he took it upon himself to investigate and try to figure out what's going on. And during that investigation, he ran afoul of a group of villains that readers will be familiar with, but I don't want to tell you who it is. I think it was in the solicitation, so it wouldn't be a spoiler, but
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it up to you to read.
I think they were even on the last page of the first issue.
Oh,
where it kind of
shoot,
showed
yeah.
like, here's your cast of characters.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I still won't tell you
Yeah.
though, just in case. But so he ran into them. So Jean, sort of reluctantly agrees to help him, and she helps him with his continuous investigation, and it leads them into direct conflict with those villains. And I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to spoil anything else, but I will say that there is a nice big action set piece near the end of the issue with Jean and Corsair and these other guys, which is really cool. The artwork is really really cool in this, and I'll say that I think this is some of the best Jean Grey I've read maybe ever.
Yeah.
Like in a really 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 long time. I really like Jean in this.
They do what I really like, and they did in the first issue. It shows in the beginning that Jean has been helping people throughout the universe, and the narration talks about like the Phoenix is this being, and it doesn't need the resources that a regular person needs. It can do all this, but Jean Grey, the woman, is very tired.
Yeah.
And I was like, that I love this balance between, she is this like celestial entity, but also she is a person, and it humanizes her in a way that sometimes Jean is not humanized.
I was gonna say that same thing. Like I almost, if this is gonna be weird to say, but I almost feel like Jean is more human in this than she has been in a long time. Like so many other, in the past, she's whether it's part of the Phoenix Force or not, she's been very kind of grandiose and almost like looking down, not like in a bad way, but almost like looking down on people. Like she's this very big entity, but in this she just seems like a normal person who has this giant cosmic power in her. And I think that's what I really really like about this, because I finally, it's like, oh, there's Jean Grey, there's Jean that I read back when I was a kid. So just phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. All that stuff at the end made sense, but just how I interpreted this a little bit.
I would say the final kind of like, the last maybe 2 pages, I was like, wait, what? Like, this is, it's continuing on to the next issue, which I'm sure will explain things, but it takes a turn of like, where is this going?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, weird, really excited to read it.
It's great, and like you said, the art in this is phenomenal. The colors are so good, especially just like when she's in full Phoenix mode, just glowing. It's so cool.
Yeah. It's great. I loved it. So this is our A cover right here. We have this really nice Tran Nguyen variant. We've got this Baldari variant. I love this one. This is the Chew variant. I love that. Oh, and that's it. That's all.
Yep. I definitely think it's, all the From the Ashes books have been good, and a lot of them have been surprising how much I've liked them. But after reading issue 1 and being like, whoa, this is really good, and then issue 2, this is in the top 2 or 3,
for sure,
think, of the best X books
of the new From the Ashes. This is absolutely my favorites for sure.
Okay, next up, we're getting back to the Energon universe with Destro number 3, and this is probably my favorite issue of the series so far. I feel like this is where the most stuff kind of comes together. So we saw in the last one, Destro went to kind of his family crypt he's kept a secret, but someone was outside targeting him, and we find out this is the character called Chameleon, which I don't think is in any. This might be a new character.
Well, when they announced that there's going to be a G.I. Joe book coming in November, they did say there's going to be a brand new character in that book, and I think it's this character. I don't remember her from anything else.
Yeah, she's still very like and meant to be kind of aloof and like who is this
Yeah,
and
yeah.
who's she working
Who does she
for?
work for? Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
big question in this, but we do get an awesome throwdown between Destro and Chameleon, and the moment Destro thinks that he's like, oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake, and then something happens where things do not work out the way he just planned, you immediately see like, okay, what's Destro when he's on his back foot in this fight? It's really interesting, but uh, we do learn also a little bit more about that attack from issue 1 from during Destro's kind of meeting of the heads of all these things, and it was attacked, and he blamed Tomax and Zaymont for it. We learn a little bit more about that, and something that we kind of were theorizing happened there is made a little bit more clear. But also in this, Destro is a like a big strategist and everything, and he makes a play that is very you don't see coming. He does
Hmm.
something that's like, oh wow, um, something that may look like failure, but actually plays right to his
Yeah.
hand. And we do see a new character in this book, but a long time GI Joe character appear at the end that is in the hierarchy of characters, pretty far up there.
Hmm.
That also makes me wonder: is there another faction, or you know, it seems like everyone's keeping secrets from everyone
Oh,
else
for sure.
on
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
every side of this game. So, a really interesting issue of Destro, and I just thought it was really cool. Now all the pieces starting falling together, and I really want to see what happens in the next one. So that is our A cover. We also have this Kerschel variant.
I like that.
Yeah. And we have this. This is a 1 in 10 Sysmasia variant we're selling for $9.99, and that's Chameleon on
Yeah.
the cover.
All right, well, next up for me is another book that I absolutely love. This is Epitaphs from the Abyss #2. Kind of bringing back the Oni. I'm sorry, not Oni. Well, it's published by Oni Press,
Yeah.
but the EC Comics classic horror anthology books from the 50s. This is another one. This one contains 3 short anthology horror stories. I think the first issue had 4, but that was, I think, is a little bit oversized. So 3 stories in this. The first one's called Pattern Recognition, written by Matt Kent, and the art is by Klaus Janson. And it's about this street thug who thinks that his buddy, who's kind of the leader of their little gang, he thinks that his buddy is right about everything, and he goes to extreme lengths to make sure that everyone hears what his buddy has to say. And I'll leave it at that. There's another story called Gray Green Memories, written and drawn by Tyler Crook, and it's a very short zombie story, but from the zombies' point of view. And it kind of lends to the idea a little bit that zombies still have a tiny bit of their mind left even after they turn into a zombie. I think they brought that up in The Walking Dead. It's like, do they still know anything about who
Yeah.
they are, that kind of thing. And then the last story is the main one. It's called Sounds and Haptics. It's written by Jason Aaron, and the art is by Jorge Fornes. And it's about, I will say it's my favorite story in this issue, and it's the most macabre story in this as well. This kid wakes up after being in this car crash, and there's somebody there who's taking care of him, and he thinks he's in the hospital, but you quickly learn that he's not. And he keeps going in and out of consciousness, and every time he wakes up, he's missing a body part. And there's a reason why. And I won't spoil anything, but it's gruesome. Like, it's pretty gruesome. It's not like super gory, but it's like, oh my gosh, now this is happening, and now this is happening, and it all makes sense within the context of the story. It's awesome. I love horror comics, especially anthology ones where you can just read like one singular horror story and be done. This is absolutely phenomenal. So if you like that kind of story, absolutely pick this up. This is our A cover right here, and we have this really creepy Polina variant. That's heebie-jeebies. There is a 1 in 10 Stevens variant that we're
I love
selling
that
for
one.
$12.99. Yeah, that one is absolutely great. And then there's a 1 in 20 black and white variant that we're selling for $19.99, and it's not marked on, like, that's what the cover looks like with like the margin notes and everything. We didn't write on it. That's what the cover looks like, and this one's great.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of books like Creep Show, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, this just fits right
Oh,
in
it's great.
that wheelhouse
Yeah.
of anthology horror. Even has a kind of a little narrator character, much
Yep.
like Creep Show
Yep.
does. Okay, speaking of creepy, let's talk about this new book called Patra
Hmm.
from Dark Horse. So this I had no idea going into it. I'd seen the cover, I'd seen all that, but had no idea what the story was. This is by James Robinson, so been working in the industry forever, and Scott Collins, like two DC alums, worked in DC forever. This is really interesting, and I couldn't even really put this in a genre. This is very odd. But so this starts in Minnesota in 2022, and there is a the police have found a house where there has been a murder that took place. The whole family in it has been murdered, and except for they find out that there was a daughter, but the daughter is missing.
Hmm.
And it's pretty grisly scene. I was surprised that it went as far as it did in this. But we it changes scenes, and we find the daughter Patra waking up in the middle of the woods, not knowing how she got there, not remembering really much of anything about what happened. And immediately your thought is, oh, she must have done it or something like that. But um, things start to get a little weird when there is a let's say something dangerous comes out of the woods, and Patra immediately finds herself looking like this. A mask appears on her face and a knife appears in her hand. And kind of freaks out, and she throws the mask on the ground. After a few seconds, it disappears like it was never there. She thinks this is, my mind playing tricks on me, all of that. But when we cut back to the police, it a local person comes by and basically tells them what happened. Like, oh, you had a murder and it was this family and all that, and they're like, yeah, this hasn't even got out to the press yet, has it? He's like, no, but this has happened before. There was a murderer named Jeremy Jones years ago, and this was kind of his MO. So it's really interesting. There's some supernatural elements, and maybe the woods that Patra's in, there's another something stalking there that ties it all together. But we do learn a little bit more about this original serial killer. But what is special about this girl, this mask, this knife? So it has some, I don't want to say superhero, but the way she like gets this costume
Hmm.
and looks like she's every time she's in danger, she gets this. It's just really interesting. So if you like your kind of weird horror slasher, I would say maybe in line with books like um, Nailbiter, but more supernatural than
Okay.
that. But that kind of tone
Yeah.
on
I love
that.
Nailbiter.
Yeah,
So.
I think people will really enjoy this, and I think a lot of people may just pass over this not knowing what it's about because the cover doesn't tell you a whole lot of things. But if you read it, I think people are going to really like it. So that is your A cover by the interior artist Scott Collins, but it's not all in that duo tone,
Oh
red
yeah.
and black. It's full color. And we have a variant. This should be your key to know it's good, is because Francavilla did a
Oh yeah.
cover, and you should just be sold there. So,
Francavilla and horror comics go
yeah,
together like peanut butter and jelly.
just great cover there.
All right, well, we got some Venom War tie-ins coming out this week. The first one I'm going to talk about is Venom War Venomous, and this is written by Erica Schultz. The art is by Luciano Vecchio. Um, and this is in this one, Black Widow is looking into some experiments that Alchemax is doing on symbiotes, and she tracks down this one Alchemax scientist to a black market auction where he's selling this weapon that is deadly to symbiotes. And not really sure if it's the same one from Venom War Carnage. I'll tell you about that one in a minute. But she tracks this guy down to this auction, and it leads her. She questions him and asks him what he's doing and asks him about their experiments, that kind of stuff. And this leads her actually back to Alchemax, where she runs into Flash Thompson, who is Agent Anti Venom. You can see him there on the cover. He's there to get help from Liz Allen to deal with Carnage. And before they're able to really accomplish anything, they run into a big horde of zombiotes, and we know that's going to be a big thing in this crossover. And this doesn't other than those zombiotes, this doesn't really have anything to do with Venom War. I don't really, other than like there's a bunch of people that have symbiotes, but I don't really know how this ties in. Maybe it will in a future issue. I think this is going to be maybe a 3 or a 4 issue tie-in miniseries. But other than those zombiotes, this could just be like its own story, really. So I don't really know what the big connection is to Venom War, but maybe that'll come at some point.
Feels
But
like everyone's heading towards that wrestling ring
yeah,
from the Venom War number
yeah,
one. So maybe it will all loop back and all the characters will be there at the end.
yeah.
But who knows?
But I did like it though. It's Venom, or I'm sorry, Black Widow and her symbiote named Sliver, who it got that name in the one shot from a couple weeks back. They're starting to really work together, and I still kind of wish Black Widow didn't need a symbiote because she's awesome enough. But it's cool to see them work together, and then Flash Thompson popping back up. The artwork is really cool too. So
I flipped through to see the art.
yeah,
And I did really
yeah, it's
like
awesome.
that.
So yeah, if you're trying to get all the tie-ins or figure out which ones to get, this is one that's coming out this week. This is our A cover, and we have this really cool one by Luciano Vecchio.
Next up for me, I've got issue 3 of 4 of Gotham City Sirens, this weekly book that they've been doing, which is really interesting. It's been a while since DC's done a weekly book, but I've enjoyed having one of these to read every week. And I'll say this series, as it should, given the characters in this, is pretty chaotic. It's very much like this happens and then this happens and this happens. How do they get out of this? Well, this other thing comes in here and gets them out of this situation. It's very like it's fast paced and fun. And in the last one, they left the Gotham City Sirens, Harley, Ivy, and Catwoman in a cell that apparently was kind of like an oven, like it was heating up. And so that's dangerous, especially for Ivy. Ivy, kind of has uh, the demeanor or whatever of a plant too. So she's very susceptible to stuff like that. We also find out in this one basically what Punchline's full plan is. How the Exo Punch energy drink is tied in with this weird um, virtual reality game, but not really virtual reality because people can control other people in like a first person shooter type game and hunt other people. But she has a way where those people and animals and stuff don't die. It feels a little Westworld. It's kind of apt that they're dressed like cowboys on here. You'll have to read it to really understand because it is a very complicated plan, but also it's interesting to see like it kind of fits Punchline's MO a little bit. But it all has to do with the energy drink and all this kind of stuff. Uh, and Punchline makes her sales pitch to Harley Ivy and Selena in their cell about what she's doing, and of course, like, join me or whatever. But it may end up being White Rabbit that saves the day. We'll have to find out. But that whole thing I was talking about last time about I didn't realize that White Rabbit
Oh yeah,
was
like two different.
had this ability, and I
Mhm.
actually, after I read this, went and looked up like the wiki entry for White Rabbit. She does have this power where she can split her personality into two very distinct characters, and we have seen both of those in here. But she does it in a way that I don't think we've ever seen her do it before in this one. That is pretty interesting. So you'll have to read it to find out. So yes, the story in this is not the most grandiose. It's not the most, strategic. Where it's like, oh, this thing they mentioned in the beginning is coming back to play. No, it's just fun and it's kind of a runaway train of a
Yeah.
story. But I really enjoy it. The dialogue's fun. So I've enjoyed this and it fits perfectly that it's weekly. So that is your A cover by Terry Dodson. We've got, of course, some other really nice coverage for this. So we've got this. This is the Lee variant with Poison Ivy. We've got this Forbes kind of fashion variant. We've got this connecting variant by Gilliam March. And then check this one out. And I'm not sure how well this will come over the screen, but this is those prismatic ones they're telling us. You can't really see it on here, but it's got
Yeah,
these.
the the swirl, the squiggles.
There's some squiggles on here that kind of go through a rainbow effect. It's very interesting. I don't think we've ever seen a variant cover do this. And even it makes you sneeze.
Huh.
And we have this 1 in 25 Bustos variant we're selling for $14.99.
Well, next I've got Venom War Carnage. Bless you.
Thank you.
Number one. This is written by Torrin Grombeck and the artist by Perry Perez. Now I was a little bit confused reading this because I'm not reading the current Carnage series, and this does tie into that quite a bit. In that series, Carnage has learned that Alchemax is creating a weapon that is deadly to symbiotes, and he wants to learn more about that. Now I'm not sure if it's the same weapon that Black Widow was tracking down. It might be, or they might be making a bunch of different weapons, and they're going after different ones. But this issue, in this one, he tracks down and tortures a couple of different employees who work for Alchemax to learn more about that information. So it's very similar to Black Widow, except she just tracks a guy to a black market auction. He actually gets them himself and tortures them. And and that's pretty much it. Like the whole issue is like him torturing these scientists and try to figure out to learn about this weapon. And this one didn't really have anything to do with the Venom War either. And he doesn't come across any zombiotes or anything like that. But I am wondering if he eventually does find the weapon that he's been looking for and maybe uses it in the Venom War somehow. I'm not sure. But this issue in particular doesn't really tie into the Venom War all that much, even though it says it at the top. This could just be Carnage number 9 or whatever. But still really cool though. Great artwork and everything. Carnage is just he's a bad guy, and I like bad guys. So there's our A cover right there, and we have this La Roca variant. Venom is not in this.
French kissing on the cover.
Oh, weird, yeah.
Okay, next up I have Superman number 17, and this was a great issue. This is an absolute power tie-in, and this actually does, unlike the Venom tie-ins, it does tie in to what's going on in Absolute Power. As we saw in the last one, Superman and Zatanna have escaped the attack on the Fortress of Solitude, and their mission is to find the map of Mordru, which will give them the ability to basically appear anywhere there's a shadow and help, get people other heroes out of situations with the Amazo robots and all of that. This is, they're going to be the rescue team. But to find it, they're going to have to walk, what are they, is called
The Dark Roads.
The Dark Roads, which are kind of dark magic roads that are really dangerous if you're not a magic user. The problem is, Zatanna and Superman both don't have their powers.
Right.
So they have to be extra careful as they navigate this. And I thought the way it was depicted is really cool. How it almost goes through different characters' domains within this dark road.
Yeah.
Because there is one that they go through that is like, oh, that's cool. That's where so-and-so uses this. But Amanda Waller is hot on their heels, like always. She's found every entrance to everything, but they are trying to make their way to the Oblivion Bar, and all I'll say is Superman, even without his powers, even out without ways to defend himself, especially he's without his powers and he's still extra susceptible to magic, will do whatever it takes to kind of rally people and call people out and say, hey, if you have the ability to do something, you need to do something. And I don't care what you throw at me.
Yeah.
I will stand up for what I think is right.
He still commands attention.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't have his powers.
Which is great. And I love Zatanna just stands back and lets him go.
Yeah.
Also, the little thing that I thought was really cool is as Superman's going through these dark roads, he's having flashes in his mind of times he's encountered magic.
Oh, right, yeah.
And there's one where he is Superboy. And I thought that was awesome. And now I'm like, oh man, I would love a new Superboy series with Clark as a kid.
But that made me think like, okay, so are we back to pre-crisis continuity? And then did Doomsday Clock do anything to reset that? Yeah, like I started.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah.
See,
because it's a quick little scene. It doesn't really affect the story, so don't worry about it.
But it's very like Smallville, Superman. Yeah. He talks about he just got his cape. Yeah. Ma Kent just made his cape. Delightful. Full of great Superman moments. And it's just going to continue to be awesome. And Superman's one of my favorite series going on right now. Plus, some great stuff going on with Lois and Jimmy and Lex and that whole crew that's outside kind of trying to survive in this Amanda Waller world. So don't miss it. If you're not reading Superman, just get the trade, catch up to it, because this is one of the best things coming out right now. We've also got a lot of great variant covers. We've got this Gilliam March cover, who's doing a lot this week, said his name a lot. We've got this Sajik variant with Zatanna. We've got this one is awesome. This is the Tony Daniel variant. He had a little run where he was the main artist on Superman for a little while. I think it was Action Comics. We have the action figure variant with Gold Superman.
I want him to have that suit for a story arc.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Maybe it's good at absorbing sunlight or something. We've got this Torque swimsuit variant. We've got this. This is the Janin Resistance variant, which keep that suit for a long time. I love it. And we've got this. This is the Bachalo Beetlejuice variant, where Superman now has a shrunken head.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have a 1 in 25 Hill variant that we're selling for $12.99.
Well, let's stick with Absolute Power and talk about Wonder Woman number 12, because this is also an Absolute Power tie-in written by Tom King, and the art is by Tony Daniel. You said that he was doing Superman for a bit. Now he's on this for a little bit. And this is a really good issue because Wonder Woman and Damian team up to extract information from Captain Boomerang, who they captured at some point along the way. By the time the issue starts, they've already captured him. But they're wanting to question him to get information about where Amanda Waller is keeping all of the captured heroes. So they go back and forth because they each have their own methods by which they question bad guys, right? So they go back and forth trying their own methods. Damien's involves fear, and Wonder Woman's ways involve love. And Damien's methods are really funny because every single one of them involve him dangling Captain Boomerang upside down from something. And Wonder Woman even calls that out at one point, like his third attempt, she's like, she just says, great, more dangling or something like that. So it's really cool. And that's pretty much the whole issue, is just them going back and forth, trying different things to get information from Captain Boomerang. But it's really, really fun to see the two of them interact with each other. I would love to see more of that because she's actually a really great mentor for him. She tries to impart some information. She a couple times she's like, I'm not Batman. I do things differently, and it just works really well to have a really fun, kind of a I don't know if it's mother son or older sister younger brother kind of relationship, but it just works really really well. Yeah, like a fun aunt.
Like Superman and Wonder Woman to Damian are like an uncle and aunt.
Yeah, that's probably better. So just really great, absolutely fantastic. And there's also another really funny backup story involving Trinity and Damian and John as they travel through the galaxy to stop Mongol from taking over the galaxy. But the trip there is really fun. So just more wonderfulness from Wonder Woman. This whole series has been great, and this issue is also great too. So we have our A cover right here, and we got some really cool variants. This is a Tony Daniel variant. This is a really nice Gilla March variant, almost too spicy for YouTube there. This is our Julian Totino Tedesco.
That's really pretty
cover. Yep. We have a Beetlejuice cover for her, featuring her riding a sandworm, which is great. And then there's this 1 in 25 Fornes variant that we're selling for $19.99. Kind of reminds me of the Rebirth, when she sort of went the way of the Greek gods for a while, or the Norse gods. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I want a Beetlejuice Justice League crossover where you have you need the magic people.
Yeah, and they all have shrunken heads. Yeah,
that would be great. Next up, we've got Namor number 2, continuing Jason Aaron's new run on the character, kind of redefining the character's status and backstory and all of that in the Marvel Universe. And in the last one, we saw Namor, who he was in jail. He swore, I'm never going back in the ocean again. That didn't last long when he found out that the different seas are going to war with each other, and only he can stop them. So in this one, he goes to find the first ruler of one of the seas, which is Atuma. Which, of course, this is not going to go well. They are enemies already. And as Atuma is doing kind of a speech about I want y'all gonna go out there and find Namor and kill him and all this stuff. Namor just like floats into the room, and then he's like, "Oh, get him" or whatever. But Namor basically says, "No, I need to talk, and if you're not gonna listen to me, we've got to do kind of one of those like trials by combat, like oh, it's in your ancient rules that if I say let's have a combat, we have to stop and have a one-on-one fight." But they have a interesting way of doing it. I forgot what they call it. Red. It's like the red tide or something like that, where they smash wine bottles around them and fight inside the wine. Which I'm not sure the full meaning of it, but it does make very interesting looking panels. But this is all with flashbacks of Namor's first true love that
Mm.
he had growing up, where the kingdom wanted him. They had all these approved people for him to marry, but there was a young girl that he fancied that maybe wasn't of higher upbringing. But also, we find out this why he has basically turned cold to love and all of that. This seems like it's going to play a bigger role in this story. So it was an interesting second issue. It is very, I don't want to say very wordy, but there's a lot of ground to cover
Hmm.
with Namor and kind of getting people caught up on the hierarchy of this version of Atlantis and all of that. So I thought it was good, and it feels like they're setting up a really big story. So this is Namor #2, and this is the only cover I have.
Well, next I've got Dark Knights of Steel Allwinter #2, and I know it's kind of way down the list, but I'll say this is one of my favorite books that I read this weekend. Like this is awesome. So in order to talk about it, I do need to spoil what happened at the end of last issue. So if you don't want to be spoiled as to what happened in the end of the first one, skip ahead. There will be timestamps. Skip ahead to the next book. But in the end of last issue, Slade, he's going on a trip, or not a trip, but he's on a mission hired by Vandal Savage to kill this big dragon. But when he gets there, he finds his ex-wife Adeline and this young boy named Alec, and the whole book is in black and white except for Alec. He's in color, and so in this one, Slade is completely taken aback by Alec, and he knows that there's something special there. And to us, it's obvious that Alec is special because he's in color and the rest of the book is in black and white. I don't really know what it looks like to Slade, but he does notice there's a difference. He says that it's been 21 years since the Allwinter turned everything into black, white, and gray. So
Oh,
I don't know if the world maybe is black, white, gray. I
is
don't
that the first
know.
time they've actually referenced what things look like?
Yeah, I guess so. And but he says that the boy breaks that spell on everything he touches for just a split second because the boy's in vivid color and everybody else is black and white. Um, and I probably should have realized it sooner, but I didn't realize it until about halfway through this issue of which DC character Alec is in this. I thought it was at the end of last issue. I thought it was somebody else, but now it's like, oh, I was so stupid. I should have realized. So you'll probably figure it out as you read if you didn't already. But Adeline was hurt last issue, so Slade takes her and Alec to this inn where they can rest, and he tells Adeline that he's been sent to kill the boy, but instead he's going to let them. He lets them go, but on their journey to where they're going, they run into another well-known DC character who was sent to finish the job that Slade did not finish. And I won't tell you who it is. That's them on the cover. You could probably guess who it is. But it does lead to an awesome fight and something really shocking at the end. This was great. This was awesome. I love this story. I love Dark Knights of Steel, and this is awesome. It's a nice little side story to it, and it also contains part two of the Heir to the Sea story, which is like showing the early days of what Aquaman in this world. So phenomenal issue. I loved it so much, and this is our only cover.
Well, next up for me, a book I really enjoyed. This is Redcoat #5. This is, I think, the next to the last issue of this first story arc because it really heats up at the end of this one. But uh, Simon Pure and Benedict Arnold are out to find the axe of George Washington that injured Simon earlier, and when he gets cut with that, like his days are numbered type
Mm.
thing. And so they are on a quest to find this, and with the help of young Albert Einstein, they do learn a little bit more about this whole thing and what's going on with the axe and all of that. and they learn that I won't say who the Grand Architect is because that was revealed in the last one, but that they are going to be on that. They're going to be at a special party on a cruise liner, and uh, the team is going to try to get onto that cruise liner, get invitations to this party, and steal the axe because they might be able to reverse the effects. But I feel like this whole issue sets up a thing, but there is a final kind of page and a half reveal that changes this whole story pretty
Oh, okay.
significantly.
I haven't
So
read it yet, so I can't wait to read
yeah,
that on Wednesday. Yeah.
really cool. And now I've got so many more questions. And even there's a character at the end that's like, I'll explain this to you.
Mm.
And it looks like that's going to be in the next issue. But phenomenal issue. Redcoat is great. This does not happen, unfortunately. I was looking forward to some sharks.
Some sharks.
But I think this cover, it's a wraparound, shows all the ways that Simon Pure has quote unquote died throughout the years. But that is the only cover I have for that one right now.
Well, I've got Witchblade #2, and I am really liking this reboot of Witchblade. This is great. So this issue is all about Sarah trying to deal with the new power that she has, the Witchblade that she got in the first issue. All of her senses have been cranked up to 11, like think Daredevil, but way more sensitive to smell and hearing and all that kind of stuff. At one point, so like I said, the whole issue, she's just trying to figure out what's going on, deal with these powers. At one point, she stops a couple of thugs on the street who are beating up this guy, but she doesn't really seem like she's quite in control of the armor. And then later, somebody comes after her at her apartment because she has the Witchblade and they know it. And something happens that makes her realize that she's not in control at all. Like, and the question I think in this solicitation for this, it says, does she control the armor or does the armor control her? And it looks like the armor is controlling her, so she's going to have to figure out how to deal with that. But great action and art, and like I never really read Witchblade back in the '90s, but I'm really enjoying this a lot. So if you're a Witchblade fan, give this a shot because it's really good. So this is our A cover right here, and we have this really nice Joelle Jones variant. I like that a lot.
Except for me, just real quick, we have Titans number, I put 4 on there. It's 14. It's been a while since issue 4. And not a whole lot to say about this, just the Titans and the Spectre, along with Swamp Thing, all go up against Raven, who kind of now has made herself known as this Dark Queen. And this is part 7 of this story, and it's still not over yet. So this is a big story. It may run until I don't know October when
probably all in,
yeah, until the all in stuff takes over. But very interesting issue in this big story that they're telling. This is our A cover for that. We also have this really nice Chris Samney variant. We've got this Madia de Lewis variant. And we got another one of our swimsuit variants, this one by Sowie. And that is it.
Well, I've got Deadpool #5. Just wanted to talk about this real quick because this is the end of the first story arc. This is the final battle with Deadpool and Death Grip. And Marvel has been advertising that they are going to kill Deadpool in the next issue, or maybe at least in the next story arc. I'm not sure which one. And something happens in this issue that may make that possible because, you're not supposed to be able to kill Deadpool, but maybe you can, maybe after this, maybe they can. But it was really fun. There was lots of really good action, and I really like the artwork in this. It's really good. And there's a lot of funny moments, but it's not like over the top slapstick, which is one of the reasons why I don't really love Deadpool in the comics because a lot of times it's just a little bit too goofy. But this one finds that right balance of good story and silliness and humor and action and all that stuff. So yeah, I just want to let you know, end of the first story arc, and then we will be talking about Deadpool #6 when it comes out next month because again, they're supposedly going to kill Deadpool and introduce his daughter as the new Deadpool. It's not a spoiler. They've been talking about that a lot, so just wanted to fill you in on that. There is our A cover, and we have this really nice Disco Dazzler variant. Guess we're not done quite with these yet. And then there is a 1 in 25 Putri variant that we're selling for $24.99.
Yeah, because we still haven't got our Dazzler #1 yet.
That's right.
Still waiting on that.
Yeah, I think it's September, I believe.
Something like that. Okay, so next up we've got Star Wars number 49. Not a whole lot to say about this. This wraps up this kind of two-issue story arc because we are right here. This is the penultimate issue of this run of Star Wars. And this does basically lead right up to a Return of the Jedi. There's, all the pieces are in place for that to start going down. But we do know that issue 50 is actually going to be set in the future, where Luke is telling Ben Solo about kind of the formation of the rebellion and all of that. So it seems like that next one is going to be kind of just a one-shot issue, whereas this wraps up our last mini little story. So it was really fun. I really like the art for these two issues, and I'm really excited for what's to come after this runs over and we start on the next. So that is your A cover. And we have this 1 in 25 Marquez variant we are selling for just under $15.
All right, well, real quick, I've got Nightwing number 117. This is the next to last issue of the Fallen Grayson storyline and the next to last issue of Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's run. I'm so excited about that. In this one, Nightwing is still in Nanda Parbat getting help from Deadman to try to overcome his fear of heights. But he has a revelation about what may have caused it to begin with, and Bruce and Barbara go and investigate that. Of course, we've got Bruce masquerading as Nightwing in Bloodhaven, which is really cool to see. And I won't go any further than that. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a bit of a revelation at the end that's going to lead us into our final part of this story and the final part of this epic run of Nightwing. So this is great. It's all been great. This is our A cover right here. We got some really cool variants. This is our Beetlejuice variant. We have this Belen Ortega. What are they called? Like swimsuit variants? Yep. I love these action figure variants. I've been trying to get all of these. These look great. McFarlane, make that. Make that figure.
They have one version, but it doesn't have the collar.
Right, right. This is the Bruno Redondo variant right there. This is our Steven Subic. Subic? Yeah, Subic variant. And then we have a 1 in 25 Acuna variant that we're selling for $19.99, which looks great.
And the last one for me is one I did not get a chance to read, but I'm excited to read. It's Powerpuff Girls number 2. I really like number 1. It's a fun kind of one and done stories, and this one focusing on Mojo Jojo, who is one of the greatest villains in any continuity of all time. So if you read the first one, definitely check out issue number 2 because I know I will.
Well, last for me is Superman or Batman Superman World's Finest number 30. The box that this was in did not arrive at the store till today, so I did not get a chance to read this. But we wanted to just let you know about it because we love World's Finest. We want to talk about it any chance we get. And this is the start of a new story arc, which is going to tell us the tale of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman's first kind of team up together.
I think it's just one issue. I think it's
just
is this one because the next one starts the Eclipso story.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, yeah. If I'd read it, I would have known that for sure. But the artwork in this is great by Gleb Melnikov. Mark Waid's still on this, and this book is still going to continue to run. Mark Waid was asked if World's Finest is going to be ending with all the new stuff he's going to be doing, and he said, "No, not at all. Like we're still trucking ahead with World's Finest." You flip through this; it looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, World's Finest 30. Don't miss it. One of my absolute favorites out there right now. And there's some cool variants for this. This is the Puppeteer Lee variant. This is the really nice Jorge Jimenez, the Batman 89. It's a Batman 85th anniversary.
Yeah, and it was that's an homage to that Norm Brayfogle
classic
cover.
Yeah. And then this 1 in 25 Bayless variant that we are selling for $14.99. Batman has some really defined abs right there. That's really cool.
Well, that was a big week of books. A big old week, a big old stack of books.
Yeah.
So hopefully you learned a little bit more. So when you head into your comic book store or you go over to infinityflux.net, you have a little bit better idea of what you're looking for and what sounds good to you, what new number ones you might want to try out. That is what we're here for. It's connecting the right people with the right comics. And hopefully we have done that this week. So big stuff coming up too. We've got our video coming up on Wednesday. We've got our regular video where we show you the books that you can pre-order by this weekend. And it's time for our second installment of the Infinity Flux letters page. So leave your comments so we can answer all of your beautiful, beautiful questions from all you beautiful people out there.
Yeah, we've gotten some great questions so far. We have compiled those. We're going to be talking about as much as we can. There's also been some big DC news over the last couple weeks. So big show. But yeah, leave us comments or questions if you want us to talk about anything or answer anything, and we will add it to the list.
Yeah, and we do it live. So join us then and get in the chat, ask questions there, and we'll answer those as well. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and until next time,
See ya.